Hi everyone, Heather here with Astrology with Heather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. And this one is for Monday, October 28th, all the way through to Sunday, November 3rd of 2019. And this is an important week in the astrology, you guys. We are having the full manifestation of the energy that was initiated during the last eclipse season, with the North Node coming into an exact conjunction with the eclipse point at the start of this week. And so this is a very fated karmic time for a lot of people. In addition to this, Mercury is stationing to go retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. And I'm actually quite excited for this, believe it or not, just because Mercury is actually stationing in a conjunction with Venus, which is a good sign. And so we'll get into that. But before we do, I just wanted to give you guys a quick update about my foundational astrology course. After receiving some feedback from you guys and thinking it over, I decided to add an additional discount for the course through November 23rd. And so for the Just the Basics course, you can get an additional $20 off. For the most popular option, which is the Going Deeper version, the full version of this video course, you can get a full $50 off. And this is in addition to a 20% discount if you pre-order before Tuesday. And so on Tuesday, the course is released. You only have 3 more days to get an additional 20% off on top of this discounted rate. And so you can find the information for that down in the description below. But moving on to the general energy for the astrology this week, because I mean, it is a really big week with the eclipse activation. And so thinking back to what was happening for all of us in June and July in particular, especially that first week of July, like July 2nd, which was when this eclipse that we're talking about here came exact. This was, a strong eclipse energy, but it really wasn't made fully manifest. Something was initiated but never fully took off for a lot of people. It could be that there was something that you were thinking about starting, or there were some fated events that felt really important that felt like they were going to culminate in some sort of way that would lead you in a new direction in life. And maybe that culmination point never fully happened. Maybe things fizzled out for you, especially if the events that unfolded occurred prior to that solar eclipse on July 2nd. So maybe, toward the end of June or middle of June. And so now we're going to see what all of that was about. So thinking back, and some people might have had some really powerful transformative experiences and life-changing moments that occurred around that eclipse that really fully did manifest in a physical way. But this is going to be a continuation of that energy, that those themes will be brought back up. You'll have more to deal with in that realm that's being impacted by that eclipse point in your chart, which we'll get into when we talk about the forecast for all 12 signs. And as I mentioned at the start of the video, Mercury is stationing to go retrograde as well. So we have a lot of craziness going on here. So we have this eclipse activation, these synchronous, sort of almost sometimes ominous feeling events can be transpiring, where it seems like the universe is sort of putting things in motion in a certain way or leading you in a specific direction. And then you have Mercury stationing in a conjunction with Venus in the sign of Scorpio. Venus, being the lesser benefic, indicates that this is actually a really positive Mercury retrograde experience for a lot of people, or this will be a positive Mercury retrograde experience for a lot of people. A lot of what this retrograde will be about is going to be related to, this stationary period where Mercury is in this conjunction with Venus. Mercury rules things like communication, short distance travel, plans. It rules organization. It rules paperwork. It rules things like text messages, phone calls, emails. A lot of times when Mercury's in retrograde, people have difficulty finding words. They miscommunicate things. They're on the receiving end of miscommunications. Their travel plans are changed or delayed in some way. There can be issues with technology, especially involving communication. So things like emails and email servers and things of that nature. There could be misinformation that's provided that people have to go back on and sort of take it back and reevaluate and then put it back out there when Mercury goes direct. There's a lot that can happen. Scheduling issues are usually a huge thing with Mercury in retrograde, especially for certain people. And so, this is a time where people usually are kind of afraid of the Mercury retrograde, like, oh no, I'm going to have all this trouble again. But this is really a great time to to stop putting so much out there and to pull back and retreat a little bit. This is an excellent time for introspection. This is an excellent time to revise what you've already set in motion, to revisit things from your past that need to be revisited so you can wrap things up, tie up those loose ends, and move forward with greater clarity. And in addition to this being in the sign of Scorpio, this is a very, very introspective Mercury retrograde where we're going to be diving deep into like the depths of our psyche, getting to the core truth behind an issue that we've been sort of working through, and we're going to be revisiting throughout this Mercury retrograde. And Venus, in this conjunction with Mercury, Venus is a planet that rules relationships, harmony, balance, tranquility. It's that fair, equal energy with Venus that is also coming into play here. And so what we can do with this Mercury retrograde in particular, first off, is to revisit old issues in communication and relationships, to revisit old contracts and agreements, and get to the core issue that's causing us dissatisfaction with these agreements or these relationships, right? And communication and relationship and introspection and reflection on relationship is going to be a big theme. The other thing too, with Venus rules our finances, and so we could be reflecting on issues or themes involving joint finances, debt, taxes, other people's money in the sign of Scorpio. And that might be a major theme sort of on a grander scale and also in our personal lives. But the other thing that we can really do with this is create a more balanced situation for ourselves moving forward. This is about looking at both sides, right? How our plans, how our communications, how the things that we bring to fruition affect the other people that we care about in our lives, especially the deepest, most intimate relationships in our lives. And so it's more about introspection and thinking about how what we're moving forward with impacts those around us, and also finding a more balanced and beautiful way of communicating our ideas, articulating our thoughts, because that is what Mercury in a conjunction with Venus really brings. It brings this beauty and like poetic energy to our language, to our communication. And so if there's something that you've been thinking about rewriting, or if there's an important conversation you need to have that you can put off a little bit, now's a time where you can really sit in that energy and you can really reflect on the best way to move forward with these types of things. And so that's going to be a really important energy this week. It's going to be kind of this snapshot or this moment in time where, yes, the Mercury retrograde stuff tends to be a little bit more intense when Mercury is stationing, because it's at a standstill and it's very close to the earth and like nothing is moving forward. So a lot of times a few days before and a few days after the Mercury retrograde station period can be the most frustrating times during the Mercury retrograde. I would say that this is probably not going to be quite as much the case with this particular Mercury station, just because it is with that energy with Venus. So if you use this time for connection with somebody that you care about, if you use this time for reflection, then I think you'll be just fine. The other thing that's really going on here is that Venus is actually going to move into the sign of Sagittarius, and that's going to happen on Friday. And so Venus has been transiting the sign of Scorpio. Venus does not do quite so well in Scorpio. It's at its detriment there. And so the energy can be intense and obsessive in relationships and in our interactions with other people when Venus is in Scorpio. Venus moving into Sagittarius opens things up a little bit. It makes us a little bit more adventurous and a little bit more optimistic about our connections with others. And so that's going to feel like a little bit of a lift of energy. And so we've been going through a lot of turbulence the past few weeks, or really the past, few months for certain people. And now's a time where everything is kind of coming to this boiling point where we're finally getting this point of release with the eclipse activation for those who have been experiencing change, or working on manifesting the change that resulted from what occurred during that eclipse season in July. June, July especially would be the time frame for this. And then we're also having Mercury finally stop, give us a break, allowing us to sort of pull inward, to rest, to come into this place of introspection and to find balance once again. And then Venus is shifting into a space where energetically it does a little bit better. And so I feel like our relationships especially are going to be improved on a more like general level with the energy of this week. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I'm personally looking forward to this Mercury retrograde. I feel like it's going to be a really great time of rest and just pulling back for a lot of people. And it's very much needed because we've just been going headfirst, like forward momentum. There's been a lot of crazy turbulent energy in the astrology the past few weeks. And so this gives us a break. And if you guys wanted to learn more about how to navigate the Mercury retrograde energy, I'm retrograding back to the article that I wrote last Mercury retrograde, where I gave you guys a survival guide for dealing with the energy of the Mercury retrograde, where it highlights the best ways to utilize the energy of this time period so you can have a successful and very productive Mercury retrograde experience. And so I'll put the link for that down below if anybody hasn't read it yet or wants to revisit it. It's a free resource, so it's right there for you guys. And then before we get into the forecast for all 12 signs, I do have a couple of quick announcements. In addition to, my foundational astrology course being discounted even more so, and you guys having a couple more days to jump in and take the course, order the course before it's released on Tuesday. I'm also doing my Mastering Neptune webinar in the month of November, and I've actually pushed it back a full week due to scheduling issues. Weird, right? So I scheduled it way ahead of time to take place during a Mercury retrograde, and then a Mercury retrograde shadow came up and I had to reschedule it. I thought maybe I could avoid that, by doing it ahead of time. But anyway, it's to be expected with these types of things with the Mercury retrograde. So my Mastering Neptune webinar is going to be live on Saturday, November 23rd at 12 p.m. Mountain Time. If you can't attend it live, then you can definitely get the pre-recorded version and still take advantage of the pre-order discount. And so if you register in advance, you'll get 25% off, and you can do that down in the link in the description below. And if you have already, if you've already registered for the Mastering the Outer Planets series, this webinar is a part of that series, so you'll automatically be included. You'll automatically get the link to attend live, and you'll get the recording after the fact for those who are not able to attend the live session. And this is going to go really deep into Neptune. It's one of my favorite topics, one of my favorite planets, and I'll talk about this a little more as the weeks go on and we get closer to it. But I did do a video on Neptune too that you guys can kind of go back and revisit as well if you're interested in knowing more about what Neptune represents in astrology and some of the difficulties that need to be worked through with that energy. And then finally, this is the last few days to pre-order your Sagittarius solar return sun sign forecast for the year ahead for those who are Sagittarius sun signs. So you'll get 25% off if you pre-order now. The link is down in the description below, and the video forecast, which is 2+ hours long and includes a bunch of supplemental materials to help you navigate your year ahead, will be available on the 1st, which I believe is Thursday? Friday of next week. So that is happening as well. All right, so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs. And we will, of course, begin with Aries. Got to rearrange some stuff here. I got a lot of stuff on my desk today. I'm doing lots of things. I tend to have like piles of just different stuff that I'm working on all over the place. I need a bigger desk. So anyway, so let's move into the forecast for Aries and for Aries rising. So for Aries and for Aries rising, this eclipse activation is bringing forth the fated, very karmic manifestation of whatever was seeded for you in the area of career, public reputation, your work, or your relationship with authority figures in the workplace. And so even if you don't necessarily have a career or work out in the world, this could have to do with your public image, your public standing, or your relationship with those in authority. And so thinking back to that time frame, at the end of June, beginning of July, what was coming up for you around then related to these themes can give you a clue as to what's going to be brought to fruition this week. You'll know that it's like part of the eclipse energy because it'll feel very fated, it'll feel very eerie and synchronous. And for those who have their Aries sun, moon, or rising, especially your rising near that 10th degree, near that eclipse point, right? So near that square with that eclipse point, you're going to be feeling this the most. And, you know, for Aries sun signs who have this in square with your sun, you know, this would have been a part of your solar return energy. And your solar return forecast for the year ahead is actually 50% off right now on clearance, because the year is, you know, halfway through for you. And so you can learn more about that really in depth and how that impacts the overall energy of your year in the 2-hour forecast down in the description below. But in general, this is an energy where you can have a lot of really faded karmic sort of challenges that you're facing related to your work, but also that could impact your identity, your body, your health, the way that you show up in the world, your personality, your self-image could be radically transformed, and it could pull you in a whole new direction or path in life. This could also impact your relationships, and you could have faded, very karmic circumstances and challenges that you have to face around relationships that might have to do with work or career. It could be career-related relationships and connections that could be impacted by this the most. The other thing that's going on here is that the Mercury retrograde, so Mercury is stationing to go retrograde in your 8th house, which is the house of finance. It's the house of joint finances through marriage. And so there might be something that you have to reevaluate when it comes to your marriage partnership and the way that you deal with your finances. There could be something that you have to reevaluate involving debt, involving taxes, involving other people's money or inheritance. There could be some sort of issue that you have to revisit and work through involving death, maybe the death of a loved one or some sort of intense situation or fear or anxiety around death. This is a really great time to definitely spend time in introspection. This is a great time to revisit old wounds, old traumas, old insecurities, to revisit, some form of therapy, especially like a psychological, like psychotherapy or something along those lines, where you can dig up a lot of the psychological issues that are exercising some sort of control over you. Because when we hold on to these traumas, these fears, these insecurities from the past that are not necessarily related to what's going on in the present moment, it dictates the way that we behave, the decisions we make, and so it holds a lot of control over our experience. And so this is a time where we can break free from some of that by doing the inner work and by healing ourselves from the inside out first and coming back into balance in that area of life. All right. And then for Taurus and for Taurus rising, it's getting a little toasty in here. For Taurus and for Taurus rising, this energy with the eclipse activation is happening in your 9th house. And so for you guys, this is actually going to be more of a pleasant energy, especially if you have your Taurus like rising, sun sign, moon sign, whatever it is that you're listening for, near that 10th degree in the sign of Taurus. This is going to be an eclipse activation that's trining your ascendant. And so this is going to bring up some very faded karmic circumstances that came about around the time of that eclipse in July, on July 2nd. So pretty much June and July would have been the major activation, or the peak of activation of that the first time around. And so thinking back to that time frame and those themes, especially themes involving travel, higher education, connection with teachers, teaching, if you are somebody who's a teacher or a writer or who's looking to publish something, themes involving foreign travel, long distance travel, themes involving connecting with people from foreign countries, themes involving your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you, and the way that those things were changed and integrated into your personality and the way that you show up in the world around that time. This reactivation of that energy is going to fully make manifest. You're going to be able to fully make sense of what was going on then and what direction the eclipse was trying to pull you in. And this is going to be a direction that very easily aligns you more completely with your integrity, with your moral and ethical value system, so that way you can move forward standing in your integrity a lot more so than before. And this is also a positive impact on your relationships by showing up, being true to yourself and really connecting with your true path. You're going to improve your relationships, and faded karmic circumstances can come about in your relationships in a very positive way. And for those who have the sun in Taurus, I did talk about this in your solar return forecast, that 2-hour forecast that I always mention in my videos for your year ahead. And your solar return forecast is also 50% off because your solar year is, more than halfway through now. So if you want to get more information about what was happening then, what's happening now, and how that really reflects in the overall themes of your year ahead, you can find that information down in the description below. And then for the Mercury retrograde, for Taurus, this is going to be an interesting one. You're going to be revisiting a lot of energy around communication and relationships. And so this could be anything from having to renegotiate contracts. And if you do have to renegotiate contracts over these next 3 weeks, which by the way, Mercury retrograde lasts until November 20th this time around. I feel like I forgot to mention that at the beginning of this video. But this is going to be a really great time to renegotiate contracts, to reassess and reevaluate your relationships, to revisit important communications and relationship that maybe never fully, if it was like a dispute or an argument or some sort of issue that never fully got resolved in an important relationship, be that a marriage partnership, a love relationship, or otherwise. This is a really great time for you to go back, reflect, and maybe revisit that conversation, because I think the end results will be much more fair and balanced and harmonious and positive moving forward, especially if that comes up for you this week with that Mercury conjunction to Venus. And for those who have their Taurus rising sign near that 27th degree where Mercury is going to be stationing, you're going to be feeling this energy really strongly, and it's going to actually feel quite positive. Something can come back around for you and bring in some sort of new benefit that is sort of coming in from the past. This whole energy this week is about revisiting the past. And revisiting themes from the past. And for you guys, it's about revisiting past themes in relationship. It could even be going back to an old relationship or revisiting an old relationship where things were really good, even if you're just revisiting that on a mental level and on an introspective level to sort of figure out how to move forward with just better relationships in general. And so that's the energy for Taurus and for Taurus rising. Okay, so for Gemini and for Gemini rising, this activation of the eclipse is occurring in your 8th house. And so thinking back to that time frame that I talked about at the start of this video in June and July, and what was occurring for you then can give you some really important information about what was occurring or what was being made manifest or what was initiated that was meant to pull you in a whole new path or a whole new direction when it comes to dealing with joint finances, debt, taxes, other people's money. It could have even been an increase in your partner's finances that came about at that time, or maybe the promise of an increase that didn't come to fruition, and then it comes to fruition maybe sometime around this week. This is an energy where if you had to deal with anything really difficult or that brought up a lot of fear, if you had to deal with something really intense or traumatic, you might have that energy or that issue come back around, but not in the same way. It'll come back around more on the level of you resolving the conflict, you resolving the crisis, either internally or maybe externally as well, because there can be an external reflection of that. But by doing this, you're going to pull yourself in a whole new direction when it comes to feeling more empowered, because that's what this is really about. It's about empowering yourself to take back control after maybe control has been stripped of you, or the sense of control has been stripped from you due to experiences in your past. This is about you overcoming fears, overcoming whatever sort of past trauma or crisis is dictating your behavior and your decisions in the present moment. And this is going to pull you in a whole new direction in life when it comes to those types of psychological issues and the way that you deal with them and the way that you heal through that. And so that's going to be part of that energy too. For Gemini rising and Gemini sun sign people, you're going to have the Mercury retrograde impacting your 6th house, which is the house of health, daily routines, work, and your day-to-day work experience. The next 3 weeks could provide a really great opportunity for you to resolve and create better balance in any sort of conflicts or disagreements, or in any sort of issues involving communication in the workplace. That's going to be, a very strong theme for a lot of Gemini rising people. The other energy that this could play out with is rethinking and revisiting old ideas related to your health and especially the way that your psychological and emotional health impacts your physical body. And by doing this, you're going to create better balance, better equilibrium, better harmony within your body moving forward. So this is a really great time to revisit old health routines and health habits that worked for you in the past that you maybe let go of. And even though they were working for you, you just didn't have the time or you forgot about it. Now's the time to think back. What worked for you and what made you feel good on a physical level? What actually created improvements in your health, if that's a concern for you, which is a concern for everyone these days. And you can reintegrate that, and that's going to help bring balance to the body, balance to the mind, balance in general in terms of your day-to-day experience, and make things a lot easier for you. All right, and then for Cancer and for Cancer rising. So this eclipse energy would have been particularly impactful for you because it was in your sign. And so thinking back to that time frame in June and July, especially around July 2nd, and what themes came up for you around, transformation and just moving you in a whole new path, a whole new direction in life. There could have been issues involving relationships that came up around that time that you might have to revisit. But really, this is about you focusing more on your own needs, your own self-interest, and letting go of relationship situations or relationships in general that are past their expiration date, that are bogging you down and leaving you feeling repressed, oppressed, and dissatisfied. And so those themes will come back around for you this week for you to fully resolve the situation, where things will fully become manifest, or there'll be a revisiting of that energy. This is especially the case for those who have their rising sign at 10 degrees or near 10 degrees in the sign of Cancer. So I would say, really, this is a strong energy. So anywhere from 0 to 15 degrees, you'll probably be feeling this really strongly. And for those who have their sun near that 10th degree in the sign of Cancer, this would have been a part of your solar return energy. And your solar return forecast will be actually discounted 50% off on the 1st, which is this week. So if you can sit tight for a couple more days, you can get that at a discounted rate because your solar year is halfway over, and you can understand a little bit better how these themes in your personal life and in the way that you show up in the world, in your path, in your sense of purpose in this lifetime, relate to, and the changes that are occurring in this area relate to the overall energy for this entire year. So you can get a bigger picture and a bigger perspective on that. But the main thing is, this is a time for you to focus on what you need, and there's something that's really related to you on a very personal level that would have been set in motion. It could have involved your own self-interest or a choice you had to make. It could have involved a relationship, but there was an energy that happened around that time frame back in June and July that's coming back around for you. And this could have even impacted the health of your body, your vitality, your physical energy as well. And so if that was the case, you might have it impacted in a similar way again for you to fully understand why this is happening and what this is meant to teach you or show you, or where this is meant to lead you. The other thing that's going on here is that you're having Mercury station to go retrograde in your 5th house, and it's with Venus when it's stationing. So this is actually one of the nicer positions for Mercury retrograde. There are certain Mercury retrograde positions where people tend to have a much more difficult time dealing with the energy, and then there are others where things are a little bit lighter and a little bit easier to navigate. You're getting one of the easier energies, which is good because you might be getting a little bit of intensity with that eclipse activation this week. But the area where things will feel good for you is if you take a step back and revisit things that bring you joy, that you're passionate about. This could also bring up themes over the next 3 weeks of you revisiting old relationships, of you revisiting old romantic endeavors or romantic partnerships. But this is really about you revisiting your joy, revisiting things that you're really passionate about or that you've been passionate about in your past and that maybe have fallen by the wayside because of other things going on in your life. This is where you find yourself again. You find your play, you find your inner child. And in terms of children, if you do have any, this would be a really great time to take a step back and revisit any old issues that haven't been resolved involving your relationship with your children, your communication with your children, or something you wanted to convey to them or teach to them that maybe you tried to in the past but it didn't really stick. Now's a time where you can deliver that in a way that's more fair and balanced, or you can just revisit like playing with them and spending time with them and like pulling back from your normal, day-to-day reality to enjoy spending time with your kids and to find where that brings you just feelings of satisfaction, in your life. So you'll come back into balance a lot more easily by revisiting this energy around children. All right, and then for Leo and for Leo rising. So for Leos, this eclipse activation is happening in your 12th house, which is the house of, it's the hidden house. And so this could have been an energy back in June and July, especially around July 2nd, that pulled you inward, that caused you to have to stop focusing so much on the day-to-day reality of your everyday life. There could have been something that was really burdening you, bogging you down, leaving you feel really oppressed, repressed, and dissatisfied in the area of health, work, daily routines, that you decided that you needed to move away from at that time. You needed a reset. You needed to spend more time in solitude, seclusion, away from the world in order to gain a fresh perspective on the situation that was going on for you. And maybe it could have involved you having to very literally physically remove yourself from your day-to-day life through some sort of spiritual retreat, some sort of like hospitalization even, in order to get away. And it could have involved your health for sure in some sort of hospitalization, or the health of somebody close to you for some Leo risings, if you have other indicators for that. But whatever it was that came up for you that pulled you out of your normal life, that theme is coming back around, and you're going to see the full manifestation, the full reason that this happened, because it did happen for a reason. That's part of the North and South Node energy. It's fate, right? It's karma. It's trying to align you with your destiny, what you came here to learn from and grow through and develop in this lifetime and experience in this lifetime. And you've been pulled away from that because of just too much work and too much craziness going on. And so this will help you to come back to that space where you can have a reset, where you can pull yourself away and to see what all of this means and why those events took place, and maybe something will be carried out that wasn't fully brought to fruition the first time around. This Mercury retrograde is occurring in your 4th house, which is the house of home, family, property. And this is an excellent, really positive time to revisit anything that has to do with your home, your property, your place of living, your foundations, your roots, your family situation or family dynamics. This could have to do with you revisiting or reevaluating or going back on a living situation with a roommate or somebody close to you. This could be you having to renegotiate a contract or agreement related to your home environment, like a mortgage, maybe refinancing, or a rental agreement or contract of that kind. This could be you having to revisit old conversations with family members that need to be brought back up so you can resolve things in a way that's more fair, balanced, equal, moving forward. And this is a really great time for all Leo risings to work on just reevaluating your home. What do you need in your house, right? What can you get rid of? And how can you make your home more beautiful by like reinvigorating the energy in your home? Maybe this would be a great time to take a piece of furniture that's old and worn out and restore it or refurbish it or reupholster it in some way. That's a really great way to use this energy. This is a great time to clean out your closet. Doing this is going to free up a lot of energy in your home over the next 3 weeks. You're going to feel much more safe, secure, and just more at ease in your living situation. See, I have too many things on my desk. Next time I'll just throw everything on the floor before I start. Okay, no, I won't. I'm a Virgo. Okay, so for Virgo and for Virgo rising. So for this eclipse activation, this will happen in your 11th house, which is the house of friendship. It's the house of connections with your friends, your social networks, people that you surround yourself by choice. It's a group membership and your relationship to your social circle and all of humanity. And so this eclipse back in June and July could have brought about, first off, just really positive energy around transitioning or changing something involving your relationships. And so this could have brought about really positive new energy in relationships. So you might have had a new relationship or a new friendship in particular that came up for you around that time that you experienced really positively. You could have had some sort of new group that you became aligned with or joined or started at that time. Maybe things didn't fully pan out or fully come to fruition. Maybe you connected with a group of people and it felt fated. It felt like this is like some sort of karmic experience that you have to have, and then nothing came of it. It fizzled out and you're just kind of like, what the heck was that? You'll figure out what the heck was that this week with that eclipse reactivation. A lot of those similar themes will come about, and things that were not fully brought to fruition will be brought to fruition for a lot of Virgo risings and Virgo sun signs. And if you are a Virgo sun sign, this eclipse would have actually been in a sextile with your sun, throughout this year and throughout that time. And so, thinking back to that time frame and what was going on there, it would have brought also positive developments involving yourself, your identity, your career, your success out in the world, your sense of purpose, and moving you or nudging you in a gentle but sort of fated and synchronistic direction toward that purpose. The energy with Mercury stationing to go retrograde is happening in your third house. And I always tell people, Mercury retrograde in the third house seems like it's not going to be that big of a deal, because Mercury is retrograding in an area where it's already sort of it's already interpreted as like mercurial types of things, right? That'll be impacted. So things like short distance travel, things like communication, right? Things like your relationship with your neighbors in your neighborhood and your siblings, that could come up with this too. But a lot of these things are more mercurial things. And so it seems like it's not going to be that impactful, but it usually is more impactful. And Mercury retrograde in the third house is usually more retrograde-y than it is in some of the other houses. Luckily, Mercury is stationing in a conjunction with Venus, and so revisiting old communications, miscommunications or delays or issues involving communication will help you to take a step back, reevaluate, figure out what you truly and deeply desire and want to say, and say it with greater ease, and say it in a way that's fair, more balanced, more articulate, where people are more easily, where it's going to be more easily well received by the people that you're speaking to or that you're trying to, negotiate with or communicate with in some way. This could also be you reevaluating your relationships involving third house topics and people, right? So this could be you reevaluating your relationship with your neighbors. Maybe there was a feud that's unresolved, and now you can resolve it in a way that's fair and balanced and that benefits both parties. The same thing could be said if there's like issues involving disagreements or something along those lines with siblings or extended family members. Now's a time where you can reach out, you can revisit old communications and old issues, and you can resolve them a lot more easily, so that way you have a more balanced, fair, equal, reciprocal relationship moving forward. And so that's another way that you could utilize this energy. This would also be a really great time to like revitalize your neighborhood or something like that. So maybe getting a group together and like cleaning up the streets or something like that, or planting, I guess it's fall here, but that's a good time for planting trees. Helping your neighbors, right? Raking the leaves of the little old lady down the street who can't rake her own leaves, or getting a team together to help people that can't do things for themselves necessarily. Those would be really great ways to use that energy too. But the main thing is, revisiting these old communications, and you might have a little, for Virgos in particular, back everything up now as you are watching this video. And then triple and quadruple check everything that you say, everything that you send out, because you're going to be more prone to mistakes than other signs, and you're a Mercury ruled sign, and Virgos don't like to make mistakes. So that's going to be extra important for you guys. All right. And then for Libra and for Libra rising. All right, so this energy here of the eclipse activation is occurring in your 10th house. So back in June and July, especially around July 2nd, there would have been a really intense energy, especially for those who have their Libra rising sign near that 10th degree, or their midheaven near that 10th degree in the sign of Cancer. But for those who have their Libra sun or rising sign near that 10th degree, so anywhere really from 5 to 15 degrees would be feeling this the most. This would have been a really intense energy that would have been very impactful for you for the year ahead. And so for the sun sign people who have Libra at that 10th degree, this is going to be a major theme that is playing out, that's being carried out from the summer. that involves not just conflict involving work, career, public reputation, your home and family life, and how maybe your home situation or living situation is burdening you and bogging you down and preventing you from accomplishing what you want to accomplish in your career. And so maybe you had to surrender and let go of something. Maybe you had to move on from something in your home life in order to pursue a different path in your career. But this could have also impacted your sense of success, your sense of purpose out in the world. That could have been challenged. You might have been feeling like life was meaningless, or that there was something that was preventing you from connecting with that meaning, with that purpose, with what you need in order to feel successful and lit up about life. And, this energy challenged you to move in a new direction so you could find that for yourself. And so this is a really intense energy. There could have also been conflicts or difficulties in relationships that came up around that time. And so all of these themes are coming back around to help pull you in a new direction. You have to resolve those conflicts in relationships in order to come into a new direction. If a new relationship came up at that time and it brought about some sort of turbulence, now you might see why, or that relationship might, move to the next level. If some turbulence came about in your career, you might see why, or you might actually get the career growth and development because you faced those challenges head on that you've been desiring all along. Same thing goes with like leaving a bad situation in your home environment or with your family dynamic. You might finally be able to move on because you've been putting in the work and working on releasing that energy. And when it comes to your own personal goals, personal ambitions, your direction in life, your orientation in this world, this energy would have changed that too, and it's still moving forward. It's still changing that for you. And so this might pull you in a completely new path in many, many areas of life. And so the other thing that's going on, of course, is Mercury stationing to go retrograde. This is actually going to be in your second house, which is the house of finance. And so this is an energy where you might have to reevaluate your budget. You might have to rebalance your budget, and you'll come back into greater balance and make more money as a result, or be able to save a lot more money as a result of doing this. So it's definitely advisable to move with that energy and to take a step back and just reevaluate before you move forward with any important purchases or any career related decisions that will impact your finances. So this is a time to reassess, reevaluate the way that you make money, the way that you use money, and the way that you save your money, and the control you have over your resources as well. All right. And then for Scorpio and Scorpio rising. So the eclipse activation is happening in your 9th and in your 3rd house. And so this could be something that was initiated around the time of this first eclipse, which happened, back in June and July. So especially around July 2nd. That's kind of an interesting thing. And so, revisiting that energy back from that time, involving your education, involving your belief systems about God, the universe, the world around you, involving your relationship with teachers and, people that you look up to as sources of knowledge, involving long distance travel plans, involving teaching if you are somebody who's a teacher, or creating some sort of course or something like that. This could be where things finally come to fruition, involving those themes that maybe it seemed like they were going to go in a certain direction, and then things just kind of fizzled out. There were a lot of challenges along the way. It didn't take off, and now things finally take off for you. They finally are made manifest, and it makes sense to you as to like why all of this was happening, where it might not have made perfect sense before. For those of you who have your Scorpio rising sign in particular near that 10th degree, this could be a very positive energy for you, that the events that transpire can really change your direction in life in a very gentle but powerful way. And you'll know the direction that you're meant to take through the signs, synchronicities, the things that will align for you to pull you in that direction. Just pay attention to where you're being guided and go in that direction, and all will be well. This could also bring really positive developments involving your relationships in particular, and so that's another major theme that could be coming up for you, where you might have some positive, very synchronistic developments in relationships, especially relationships with people in foreign cultures, or relationships with people involving higher education, or religious or philosophical types of, situations or relationships that are based in that energy. The other thing that is going to be happening, of course, is that Mercury will be stationing to go retrograde. And so Mercury is stationing to go retrograde in your first house, which is the house of you. It's the house of the self. So this is the time where you have to reassess yourself, reevaluate what you're doing and why you're doing it, your direction in life, and the way that your energy impacts others, the way that you show up, and the way that you move forward in favor of your own self-interest. This could be you reevaluating other things too, involving like your body and your health, involving your appearance, because that's also part of that first house energy. Maybe you're wanting to like revamp your style. Maybe you're wanting to go back and like, maybe you got like a bad haircut and you want to go back and redo it or something like that. Now's the time where you can think about doing that, or you can at least reassess, so that way when you move forward, you make a better decision in that area. This is going to be a time where the spotlight's on you. You might have a lot more of those Mercury retrograde hiccups than some of the other signs would, just because this is in your sign. But this is really reevaluating the way that you come across, the way that you project your energy outwardly, the way that you move forward in favor of your own self-interest. And it's going to require a lot of introspection, a lot of deepening of self-awareness in order to come back into better balance in that area, so that way you can project your energy in a way that's more harmonious, more well-received, and have better relationships with other people in your life as well as a result of this. All right, and then for Sagittarius and for Sagittarius rising. So for Sagittarius rising people, and just kind of going back to Scorpio too, just one last thing I wanted to mention before we move on to that is that if you're a Scorpio sun sign who's watching the forecast, so if you're a Scorpio sun sign, this energy is impacting your solar return. And so when Mercury stations in your solar return or is retrograde in your solar return, it indicates a year where it's not wise to seek out new concepts, new information, new ways of doing things. This is a time where you're taking all of the information that you've gathered in previous solar cycles and you're reintegrating it and you're reassessing it, and you're learning how you can use that. Maybe there's something you studied in the past that you're bringing back into the forefront of your consciousness, and you're finally able to make sense of it because you're revisiting it and reviewing it, and you're able to use it in your life in a big way. And so this isn't a time to seek out something new in terms of ideas, belief systems, information, concepts, plans. This is a time to revisit old information and to use that this year. And so if you are a Scorpio sun sign, your solar return forecast is now available for the year ahead, and it's a 2-hour video that you can get down. It's more than 2 hours actually, that you can get down in the description below with additional supplemental materials that help you to get more detail and to navigate your year ahead. And we talk about this solar return energy with Mercury in retrograde. For everyone who is born now through the 20th is going to be having this. So this impacts a lot of Scorpio sun signs, and it's an important theme for the year ahead. So anyway, moving on to Sagittarius. So for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this energy with the North Node is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of debt, other people's money, joint finances through marriage. And so there could have been some sort of development that came about that was new for you, involving maybe resolving some sort of debt or moving forward in a new direction when it comes to your financial situation, especially involving investments, involving things like insurance, involving things like inheritance or other people's money. Maybe your partner got a raise or a promotion or got some sort of bonus where more money was coming in. And, that helped to pull you in a new direction, and it helped you to release some of the toxic or difficult energy in your own 2nd house, where maybe you were worried about finances, or you're feeling really oppressed or burdened by your situation with your work. This energy can come back around in a new way, or it can be fully brought to fruition if it wasn't fully brought to fruition. Maybe there was a promise of some sort of raise or some sort of money that would come in through inheritance or through your partner's finances, or through like taxes or an insurance claim or something like that. And it hasn't come to fruition yet. You're wondering when it's going to be made manifest. This is a week where it can be made manifest a lot more easily, and you can start to see why this was happening and what this is meant to give to you and add to your life, and what direction this is meant to move you into too, because that's important. This could also be you reassessing and reevaluating your fears, anxieties, past traumas, past wounds, especially involving death or some sort of crisis, where you have to finally move past it, where you're finally moving forward in a new direction. This is an energy for Sagittarius that's all about empowerment. It's about like taking back your power and taking back control over your fears, over your past traumas, over these crisis situations that you're still holding on to that dictate your behavior or your choices in the present, even though it's maybe not warranted so much anymore. And then with the Mercury retrograde, for Sagittarius, this is an introspective time. This is a time where you need to pay close attention to your dreams. Write them down. Pay attention to what comes up for you in terms of visions and impressions throughout your day-to-day experience, symbolism, things that seem like they're interconnected in some way or that they are like an omen or a message to you, because this is meant to provide guidance for when Mercury moves direct. And this is meant to help you to come back into greater balance and equilibrium, especially through disconnecting from reality, disconnecting from your day-to-day life. This is a time where you might have to revisit old issues from the past in order to let them go, completely wrap them up and move forward, because this is the house of endings. This is also a time where you might have to revisit some old energies involving 12th house institutions like hospitals, brothels, prisons, ashrams, monasteries, retreat centers, places that are hidden from the world, rehabilitation centers, places where you go to get out of normal day-to-day life for healing or for some sort of purpose, or maybe out of force if it's like a prison system or something like that. There could be old issues or maybe miscommunications or contracts that came through or involve those institutions that you might have to revisit. All right, and then for Capricorn and Capricorn rising. So for you guys, this energy is reigniting that eclipse season energy from July, especially around July 2nd. So June and July in particular would have been a very strong energy with this. And so for those of you, especially who have your sun, moon, or rising sign near that 10th degree in the sign of Capricorn, so really anywhere from 0 to 10 degrees, you're going to be feeling this much more strongly than other Capricorns will. And this is going to bring up issues or so this eclipse would have been a fated transition point where you would have been pulled into a new direction as it relates to your close personal relationships, as it relates to your marriage partnership or some sort of joint contractual agreement or relationship or business partnership or close friendship, where maybe even a new relationship came about in a way that was fated, synchronistic, but maybe there were challenges and it wasn't fully brought to fruition and you're like, what the heck was that? And so now's a time where you can be fully pulled into that relationship. You can be fully pulled into that contract or agreement, and you can see why that came about in the way that it came about. This could also be that you just moved in a whole new direction in your partnership, in marriage, or in some sort of important relationship, and you weren't really sure why that happened or why that came about, and now it starts to make sense, and you start to realize the full potential of this energy and what it's meant to bring for you fully and completely. The other thing that's going on here is that you'll have Mercury moving in retrograde, or stationing to move in retrograde in a conjunction with Venus in the sign of Scorpio. And so this is going to be a time where you can have, over the next 3 weeks, more miscommunications and difficulties involving friends and groups of people and organizations that you're a part of. So when you're sending out emails or messages to a friend or to a group or organization, or have any communication coming through or contracts coming through involving those types of themes or types of people, double, triple, quadruple check everything. This is also a really great time, though. This whole week is about relationships for you. So this is a great time to reevaluate your friendships so you can create better harmony and balance moving forward. This is a time to turn inward and to rethink contracts and agreements with other people, so that way you can have better, more balanced and harmonious agreements that benefit all parties moving forward. This is a great time to revisit old friendships and bring them back into your life in a very positive, harmonious way. So if there are friends that you've lost touch with, this is a great time to get back in touch with them during this Mercury retrograde season. That's one of the best things that you can do, is to bring back old relationships that you've experienced positively, especially friendships. All right, and then for Aquarius and for Aquarius rising. So for Aquarius rising signs, the North Node is actually in the 6th house right now, in your house of work, health, and daily routines. And so there could have been something that came up for you around these themes near the time of the eclipse that happened in June and July. So especially July 2nd or around July 2nd, that's when this would have been highly activated, and that's when this eclipse occurred. So thinking back to that time frame and thinking back to those themes of your work or your work-related circumstances, your place of employment, your workplace is part of that too, your relationship with your coworkers. If there was something very fated, karmic, very intense that came in to transform your experience and pull you in a whole new direction, it's going to come back around, and either energetically or physically. And so you'll have to deal with it, resolve it, and you'll understand a lot more completely why this happened and what this is meant to bring for you, or what direction this is meant to pull you in. So pay attention to those signs and synchronicities, especially in your day-to-day experience. And this could also, again, relate to health. So if you had some sort of health issue that came up around that time, and it came up really intensely, and maybe it was never fully resolved, you can finally start to resolve that issue. You can understand it a lot more fully and completely. That might involve your health or the health of somebody close to you. It doesn't have to necessarily be you. Or healthcare providers in some way. And so that'll come back around and bring this point of manifestation again. And then the other thing too is that Mercury will be retrograding in your 10th house. This is a great time to rethink and reevaluate career-related projects, or career-related goals and plans for your future. This is a great time for introspection. If you don't know what your goals and plans are for the future, take a step back, turn inward, take the next 3 weeks to really reassess and reevaluate what you truly and deeply desire, what you feel deeply passionate about when it comes to your career and the work that you're doing out in the world, and learn how to reintegrate that, or integrate that for the first time, maybe after Mercury goes direct, because that's going to help you to experience your work and your career much more positively, and it's going to help you to be much more well received by the people in positions of power and authority in your workplace. And so maybe you've been sort of slacking or not feeling motivated in your work. This can reinvigorate that motivation, and people are going to recognize that. Your bosses are going to recognize that, or the public will recognize that if you have your own business. And so this is a great time to tap into that energy. All right, and then finally for Pisces and for Pisces rising. So for Pisces and for Pisces rising, this eclipse activation is happening in your 5th house. So lucky Pisces. This is another one of those eclipse activations that's going to be intense in a very positive way, that might bring about fated karmic situations that help to pull you in a whole new direction in pursuit of your joy, in pursuit of fun, play, the things that you love to do because you love to do them. Maybe something came about in the summertime, especially around June and July, and in that first week of July near July 2nd, that was meant to pull you in a whole new direction when it comes to a new hobby, a new interest, something that you felt really intense about, you felt really obsessed with, you felt like fate was stepping in and showing you that you needed to work with this energy in some way and incorporate it into your life. Maybe this brought about some sort of fated karmic circumstance involving children, right? Or your own children, or children just in general. Maybe this brought about a new romance and it was really exciting, and it just kind of fizzled out and didn't go anywhere. Regardless of what manifestation of these themes came about for you, now's the time where you're going to be revisiting it, and you can reintegrate that energy and reincorporate it into your life, or see the full manifestation, why this happened, where this is leading you, and how that you can integrate this energy into your personality, into your way of life, into your direction in life moving forward. So this is all about you tapping into your joy, tapping into the things that you love, and really incorporating that into your experience and the way that you project your energy outwardly through your personality and through your direction and motivation in life. The Mercury retrograde is actually going to be happening in your 9th house. This is one of the best times for you to revisit old educational pursuits. Maybe you want to go back and review an old course that you took. Maybe you want to go back and reevaluate, your education, and maybe what you've gotten out of that education, and whether or not maybe you should change that or go back, to school or something like that moving forward. It's a time for introspection around those themes. This is a time to reevaluate travel plans, really great time to reevaluate your relationship with people in foreign cultures. This is a time to take a step back and turn inward and to reevaluate your belief systems, your relationship with God, your relationship with something higher than yourself, your relationship with your morality and how that relates to the way that you express yourself out in the world, right? How that relates to your integrity. Are you in alignment with your integrity as you move through your day-to-day experience? Is the way that you show up in alignment with your moral and ethical value systems, with your belief systems? If it's not, now's a time to reassess and to figure out what you truly deeply believe and how you can incorporate that into your experience moving forward. This is also a time where you can reassess your relationship with teachers and people that you look up to as a source of wisdom, and clear up any miscommunications, or and create a better balance, more reciprocal relationship with those types of figures in your life moving forward. All right, and so that was my forecast, you guys, for all 12 signs. It is a big, really powerful week, and this is really a week about revisiting the past for sure. And that's going to be a major theme. So I hope that this was helpful to you. And if you did enjoy this video, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends if you feel like they could use a little help in navigating this energy moving forward. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @astrologywithheather. I'm sharing lots of information in the moment and doing a little series on the signs and making posts about different things on Instagram, so you can get additional updates about what's going on with the astrology and little, bits and pieces and nuggets of information on my Instagram. So that's what's going on there. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time.